Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. This week, at least in the United States, is a week of Thanksgiving, which is a holiday that we generally celebrate by giving thanks for the things that we have. I thought it would be pretty cool this week if we explored some art that was incredibly meaningful to y'all. Stuff that you're thankful that has been introduced to you. We're going to kick it off today with Neutral Milk Hotel. We're going to look at the track O Comely. O Comely? I don't know how that one's supposed to be pronounced, but I'm sure I'll find out in the lyrics, hopefully. I guess you don't always have to say the title in your song. Anyways, let's dive into this and see what Neutral Milk Hotel is bringing to the table today. What was that first note? I wonder if the tracks carry over between each other, and that was the last note of the last track.
Oh, comely.
Okay, so it is comely.
I will be with you when you lose your breath, chasing the only meaningful memory.
It means or is synonymous to beautiful or handsome. Very grungy too.
Terrible scene that was doing her thing on your chest, but oh, comely, it isn't as pretty as you'd like to guess in your memory. You're drunk on your automy. It doesn't mean anything at all. Comely, all of your friends are all letting you blow, bristling and ugly, bursting with fruits falling out from the holes of some bright and bubbly friend you could need to say comforting things in your ear. But oh, comely, there isn't such one friend that you could find. He is standing next to me. He's only my enemy. I'll crush him with everything I own. Say what you wanna say and hang for your hollow ways, moving your mouth to pull out all your miracle for me.
It's a very raw production on this too.
Your father made fetuses with flesh-licking ladies while you and your mother were asleep in the trailer park. Thunderous sparks from the dark of the stadiums, the music and medicine you needed for comforting. So make all your fat
So primarily this song is two chords, tension and release, allowing for elements of darkness to seep in.
Soft, silly music is meaningful.
A lot of it comes down to the vocals. Something about the vocal timbre. There's something pained about it.
Green fleshy flowers, while powerful pistons were sugar.
There's a lot of words too.
Smelling of semen all under the garden was all you were needing when you still believed in me. Say what you wanna say.
was that 3 verses? Now we're entering into our first change, possibly a bridge here.
I know they buried her body with others, her sister and mother, and 500 families. And will she remember me? 50 years later, I wished I could save her in some sort of time machine. Know all your enemies. We know our enemies are. Know all your enemies. We know our enemies are. Golden, my dear, we will fold and freeze.
Also, speaking about the rough production, I don't think there's much of anything done to the vocals.
There is sun and spring.
They're incredibly raw.
Forever, but now we move to feel for ourselves inside some stranger's stomach. Place your body, let your skin begin to blend itself with
All right. Very interesting track here. I think primarily because it feels folky. I don't know what it is. Yeah, we've had plenty of acoustic grunge in the 90s. I think a person and a guitar making grunge style music is kind of common. And yet this doesn't feel like that. Something about it feels more folky, more Americana, I should say. I don't know if it's some of the note choices that are going to modify the chords underneath, the note choices in the melody. I don't know if it is in some of the more interesting melodic sections, the chords used there. Something about it doesn't feel like pure grunge to me, but it is, at least to my ears, very grungy. In fact, even the vocalist reminds me a lot of Kurt Cobain. And maybe that's what's really driving this, is just a generally dark atmosphere and vocals that remind me of Cobain. Maybe that's why it sounds grungy to me. But it is just a vocalist and a guitar, and that's it. We get some horns at the end, and there's the backup vocals in the bridge. but for the most part, they're not adding anything new. The backup vocals were just creating chords that we were already hearing in the guitar. I don't think we had guitar there. It was just the vocals. So sort of passing the baton from the guitars to the vocals to carry the same idea. And a majority of the time, the brass was just playing what the vocals were playing. There at the final moments, the right guitar started to do a little bit of a canon where it was playing the same thing that the vocals were singing, but a little bit behind. I think it was 2 beats behind. And so you kind of get this delay out of that second trumpet. But the other trumpets in every other part were playing the exact same thing as the vocals were singing them. So as far as unique ideas, a majority of this is just chords and a melody. Sometimes that melody gets doubled up or tripled up, but it's just a melody for a vast majority of this. It is an incredibly simple song that focuses a lot on atmosphere. And I think what kind of brings in the more Americana thing is also the presentation of it, which is a lot of words on top of very minimal composition. This is something Americana does really well, is just create 1 or 2 ideas, usually an A and a B section, which we saw here, and no deviation, no variation on that. You just hit the A, hit the B, hit the A, hit the B, and then the core of it is going to be the personality of your vocalist and the story they tell. This is going to be like the Bob Dylan style of creating music. We hear that even stripped down further here with literally just the guitar playing chords underneath the vocals. Now, those chords, though, are creating darkness. Some of it is melancholic, some of it is moody, some of it is, I would almost say, angry. Something about it feels like there is a little bit of animosity towards something. Now, I do think that a lot of this, though, comes from the vocals. As I've mentioned in the past, a chord is just going to be usually like 3 to 5 notes. You can certainly do an open chord and get all 6 strings, but even there, you're usually going to be doubling up some notes, working octaves into that. So as far as unique notes go, again, 3 to 4 is usually a pretty good place. 3 is triads. They're used everywhere. Power chords or triads. They're very popular because they give enough information to have emotional coloring to the chord while still having a lot of open room. You're really only playing 3 notes out of the 7 or 8 in your key, which allows the melody to pick and choose what the rest of those notes are going to be, so it can allow emotional variance. If I, sing an A here, it's going to make a major chord. But if I sing an A flat here, it's going to turn it into a minor chord. So I can take this triad that the harmony is playing, and I can manipulate it into brighter or darker tones based on what the melody is doing. The melody actually has the ability to manipulate emotion if the chords are open enough for that. And that's why we typically use chords with less notes, especially in modern music. And I think that's what we're getting of a lot here, because primarily the chords that the guitar is playing is tension and release. Something a bit moodier and darker, a bit heavier in tone, and something that isn't brighter, but is a release of that tension. That is it. 2 chords throughout a vast majority of this track. There is the chorus, I think. I don't know if I want to call it a chorus, but it does show up a couple of times, maybe a sort of B section to this, where the guitar plays 2 tense chords back and forth, and then at the end resolves onto a 3rd resolution chord. But the idea is still the same here, to create tension and then resolve it. The only reason we introduce a 3rd chord here is because we want movement within the tension. Otherwise, we could have just held 1 chord over and over. There just wouldn't have been movement to that, and that kind of implies something different, a static tension that is held over time rather than a tension of variance or a tension of degrees, which is what's being played around with here. That's really about it for the harmonic work, for the guitar work in general. It is just chords creating darkness and tension. So that leaves us with the vocals. And the vocals, as I mentioned, they can modify the emotion of the chords to kind of bring it in different directions. And that's why I think many parts of this track end up feeling differently. Most of it in a darker mood. There's nothing in here that enters into joy or triumph or anything like that. It is a gloomy track from start to finish, but we have different styles of negativity present. I've already mentioned melancholy, aggression, general moodiness or just darkness of tone. We don't really enter into eerie too often, but I do find that there is a variance in the melancholy, that sometimes things are just sad and other parts are heartbreaking. And it's definitely an element of how sad do I want this moment to feel, and choosing the right notes to modify the chords in order to lean more and more into these sorrowful sounds. But I do think that a majority of this track is going to be informed by the lyrics. There's just so much of that. And I can't say I'm excited to get into it. I can only imagine there's going to be like 15 stanzas to this thing, because so much of this track is vocal work. But I do want to focus a little bit on the timbre of the vocals too. I think this is important because there's a little bit of nasaliness to it, but there's a lot of pain. We don't really get chest vocals. We don't get anything that's warm and resonant and belted. We get stuff that's a little thinner. It doesn't quite feel as confident at times. It's kind of narrowed down to a small sound. I really like then when the vocalist shifts to those wider tones and really fills the space. For a moment, it feels as if the vocalist, or maybe the character of the story, or whatever's going on with the lyrics, that this is a moment of positivity. I don't know what kind of positivity, but there's, to me, an element of confidence. There's proper support to these words now, whereas before they're kind of timid. It never lasts for long, though, and we come back to this narrow sound. It's almost at times even a little whiny. It kind of reminds me a bit of emo vocalists, but never really leans into that too far, though I could see an argument where maybe the vocals aren't someone's cup of tea because of the timbre of them, the coloring of them. But it is one, like I mentioned, that to me is very full of pain, sorrow. I'm not expecting the lyrics to be too happy. The tension of the music works really well with the vocal delivery. And I think that when we pair in also the lack of production on this, it ends up feeling very raw. Not as if this is a song that's gone through the studio process, has been recorded and mixed and mastered and perfected, but as if someone just set up a microphone, someone was singing in a subway or something, and they're like, dude, this song's excellent. We got to capture this, set the mic up, let's record. It's not great production. The guitar is too wide. There's bands in the frequency that probably should be de-emphasized in order to create a more palatable sound. The vocals, when they get loud, start clipping. They're too loud. They're not quite smoothed out. They're not, as far as I can tell, mixed at all. There's no EQing. There's certainly no post-production, like even, small amount of pitch correction, which is pretty common. When did this come out? When did this come out? There we go. 1998. Oh, okay. This is, Regardless, there's no pitch correction on this. I don't know. I was thinking this was much more recent. It's earlier than I thought, but still a bit later. I mean, that's almost at the turn of the century there. No pitch correction, though. There's no EQing on this. There's no mixing it with the guitar to balance that out. And also, it sounds like the recording equipment and maybe even the recording room weren't necessarily perfect for this either. It doesn't sound like it was recorded in a studio. It doesn't sound like an engineer got their hands on it to tweak it up and make it sound good. It sounds raw. It sounds live. And that adds, to me at least, a lot to the experience of it because, again, no longer is it a song to me. It is expression, it is art. This is somebody with a guitar putting their heart out there and really getting into something that makes them vulnerable. The presentation of it, the performance of it, it all comes together into something incredibly raw and heartfelt and painful. And yeah, that works. This is one of the few situations where I really see the raw elements elevating the art. The pitch correction, I think, is interesting because generally speaking, the vocals are fine. We're not looking at like a Brave Little Abacus situation where the vocals are consistently out of tune with the instruments, but tonality isn't perfect either. There are some microtonal elements here, starting from one note and sweeping into another. Some of these are very slow slides too, really allowing you to feel this granular movement into a higher or lower pitch. But there's also passing notes in here that, yeah, dude, they're out of tune. You know, you really hit this note and then a quick note into your next one. And that quick note in the middle that transitions to the third note, yeah, dude, maybe that's not in tune perfectly. And you can feel a little bit of that spice being thrown in without leaning into it. And so when we hit that next note and we hold on to it, maybe it's not perfectly in tune. Maybe it's a little warbly. Maybe there's a little bit of movement to it. It's human though. And I think that's what this song ultimately feels like to me. A good description of it is human. Again, just to really drill this home, it feels like someone just set up a microphone, candid, and this wasn't recorded, in a recording studio. It wasn't edited. It wasn't engineered. And that, I think, sells a lot of this. I don't think this track would be as effective if it were more traditionally made. It makes me wonder about the rest of the album though. I know we've checked out this band before. I recognize this album art. Oh, Holland 1945. So 2 tracks earlier, track 6 on this album. We've actually done a reaction to that. But I don't remember what the production is like on that. I don't know if this is unique to this track or if this is just the style of music they make. Regardless, it works perfectly here. Let me dive into some lyrics and see what's going on there. I am incredibly lost with these lyrics. Over on genius.com, pretty much every line has an annotation, and it seems to be part of a larger narrative, so I wonder if it's just because I'm coming into the middle of this whole thing and I'm missing a lot of context for what's literally going on in the story, but I get the general gist-ish of this track. I say general gist-ish because I'm not too sure about the end of it. The final 2 stanzas go right over my head, but prior to that, it seems to be a song about 2 people possibly for the first time in their lives having a sexual experience with each other. There is playfulness to the language at the beginning as there's high tensions. Says, I will be there with you when you lose your breath, chasing the only meaningful memory you thought you had left. There's also a lot of double entendre in here. So as far as I can see it, if there's a sentence, there's also an innuendo in it. Verse 2 talks about having friends near and far, and by the end not having any friends at all, including possibly the narrator. I'm not sure what happens here. Again, maybe there's something outside of the context of this track, but they seem pretty upset with themselves that the only person around this other character, the second person in the story, is an enemy. Verse 3, though, is where things really start to click, though, into this sexual direction. It says, the music and medicine you need for comforting. So make all of your fat fleshy fingers to moving and pluck all your silly strings and bend all your notes for me. Soft silly music is meaningful and magical. And the movements were beautiful, all in your ovaries, all of them milking with green fleshy flowers, while powerful pistons were sugary sweet machines, smelling of semen all under the garden. If you didn't really pick up on it with those first 7 lines, he really hammers it home in the last one. Make sure you kind of understand what's going on here. But after this point, the next verse says, I know they buried her body with others, her sister and mother and 500 families, and will she remember me 50 years later? I wished I could save her with some sort of time machine. Verse 5 says, Goldoline, my dear, we will fold and freeze together far away from here. There is sun and spring and green forever. But now we move to feel for ourselves inside some stranger's stomach. Place your body here. Let your skin begin to blend itself with mine. So this feels both present and future, and coming after verse 4 feels kind of interesting, given that verse 4 seems to be a recollection. Not a recollection, an understanding that now in the present, this other person is dead. He wishes he had a time machine to save her. Verse 5 then goes back to when she was alive. See, that's the thing. I don't know. Things get kind of strange with verse 4 and 5. Because what I thought the song was, isn't. And as I was reading it, I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. We have these two people exploring their relationship in a really negative, dark track. Very grungy. It's a weird combination there. Verse 4 adds to this, though, bringing in the fact that this other person has died and that they wish they had a time machine to go back and save them. Okay, you know what? That works with the dark atmosphere of this track. But then verse 5, I'm not sure. None of that makes any sense to me. And so I'm kind of left in a place where most of this track doesn't feel like it should be somber as it is musically, and I just feel lost. And like I said, I think it's part of a concept album, so maybe feeling lost because I jumped into, the middle of the second act without knowing anything else. I mean, makes sense. You can't jump 50 minutes into a movie and expect to understand what's happening either. Unless it's a Netflix movie, and then they'll explain it to you every 5 seconds. Bad joke. I know. Sorry. So I guess I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll let you all, Neutral Milk Hotel fans, let me know what's going on here, what kind of context I'm missing to this, and maybe it will make a little bit more sense as I understand its placement in a larger story. But these are just my thoughts, then, on O Comely by Neutral Milk Hotel. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have anything that you'd like to add to the conversation? Do you have your own take, opinion, or perspective on this track? Please put all of that, as well as anything else you would like to add, into the comment section below. Above that, in the description box, is a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UT, 10 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.